Alain, are you one of the first artists using television images?
You know, I never thought about that, but I think that might be the case. Yeah, it might be the case. Those telefiction works, of course, it's always the background, which has the shape of a television screen, more or less, roughly, is the suggestion, is always television. And then on one side is almost always a personal autobiographical image, often childhood, but not always, marriage and so on. And on the other, there's almost always a literary reference, or sometimes in the fine arts. And it's the interaction of those three that made for the narrative, in my view. Yeah, and I think I'm thinking of people like Pignotti and other friends. I do know their, of course, newspaper. Many people were using newspaper clippings, and I did also. But perhaps that's true about television. It may well be true. Yeah.
You burned these images. Telefiction, the telefiction pieces we have in the collection are burned. The first has a big burnt part, and the last one has a very small burnt part.
I did a lot of those also in this format, a lot of burnt pieces. And the burning, for me, did two things. It burnt a hole in an image, which is the imagery of media, which has occluded, which has suppressed language, so to speak, suppressed communication. So burning part reveals the possibility to communicate with words, to speak, and it's painful. It's painful, but that was a sense of those burnings. Yes.
Alain, you were part of Lotta Poetica. Could you, looking back to Lotta Poetica, what could you tell us about that?
Lotta Poetica was a very pugnacious, polemical initiative on the part of Sarenko. I would say that the whole context of Lotta Poetica, the whole thrust of it was media critical and leftist, media critical of media, because media, I think, we're all rather naive, but understandable, but a bit naive.
Alain, but Lotta Poetica, was it expression of the belief that poetry can change the world, can change things?
Yes, you think, if I understood you saying that part of the, or maybe the Sarenko's main thrust about Lotta Poetica was the possibility to change the world through critique of media, basically, I think, because almost all those poets did use newspaper clippings and so on, many of the Italians, certainly, especially the Italians, I think. Yes, I think that was a grand illusion.
Alain, if you compare this, the media situation of the 60s and the 70s and today, what comes to your mind? Because you guys detected the role of mass media, but today there are much more and much more intense mass media, I would say.
In the 60s and 70s, one still thought there was this sort of main organ, something that was generally accepted and being communicated through mass media. Today, I think it's no longer the case, because it's become so ambiguous and so multiple. There are many different organs of communication media. We don't have a kind of central. Today, we really choose. People choose the media that they want to watch or read. If they think they can get more reliable information from one or the other, but it's a choice among. So it's become really quite baffling, I think.
Are media still important for what you are doing today?
Oh, are media important today?
Yeah, for you.
No, I would say very simply no. What really has become important for me is working with these transparent works, and coming back in a way to a purer sense of the word and of communication. But it's in the form of the transparent works that I'm doing, and I think that it's sort of, when thinking about your question, it's sort of interesting that these are transparent, and even in the public poems, which were very involved with, which are still polemical, I would say, not necessarily always, but even the public poem has been converted. I have changed it back to the letter, the purity of the letter, instead of using all kinds of other visual media and props and so on. And with the works that I do now, I work just with the text. It's a kind of, I would say that I have, in that sense, lost interest in the media, in media like news media, television media, and the rest.
Thank you, Alain. That was, thank you. It was a good talk, I think.
Thanks, it was fun.